A number of new legislative changes have been introduced by the Australian government recently in respect of their migration laws. And today we meet an accredited Australian migration law expert who is principal lawyer at Fairfield Lawyers in Australia, also the director of Australia Gateway here in Sri Lanka, Susantha Kattugampala. Hello Susantha, welcome to the program.
Ayubowan Nolan.
It's nice to have you on the program actually. Well, let's start off with this question about the revision of laws, of migration laws. What can you tell me about them, the new changes?
Just very recently, the Australian government, the Australian Prime Minister, has announced a new policy that the Australian government is going to reduce the permanent migration intake by 30,000 places a year. Just in the last many years, Australia has been taking about 190,000 people, mainly skilled migrants, to Australia. That 190,000 places have been reduced to 162,000 places in the financial year 2017 and 18. So this news came as a surprise, as an unfortunate news for many migrants, that the government is looking at changing the numbers. But still it's a question whether the government's going to reduce the 30,000 from 190,000, the planned level of immigration, or it's going to be from 162,000. Basically, the idea, the objective of this change of policy is to move people from main cities to regional cities. The Australian government feels that the main cities in Australia, such as Sydney and Melbourne, especially in Melbourne, has a large population increase.
So what you're telling me is that, well, if migrants choose to settle in regional areas, they have a better chance of migration.
Better opportunity. If they want to move into a regional area, yes, there's a better opportunity. Especially Melbourne and Sydney has been getting more population, over 100,000 people a year in the last few years. So that has contributed a lot of traffic, a lot of congestion, and the local communities are concerned about the migration of population growth. So therefore the Australian government now decided to control the immigration coming to main cities. So the government focus is to give immigration opportunities to people who want to move into regional areas, such as Adelaide, Darwin, Tasmania, and regional New South Wales, regional Queensland. These are the opportunities for mainly skilled migrants to move in. But again, if you do business, or if you want to do investments, then you can certainly choose Melbourne or Sydney. There aren't any restrictions because you're welcome to do business anywhere in Australia.
How will this affect the students studying in Australia?
The overseas students, the international education is one of the biggest export incomes for Australia. It's as big as the mining, the resources, agriculture, then tourism and international education. They're the four biggest export incomes. So the students mainly come to the big cities like Melbourne and Sydney. And if you are a student in Melbourne and if you complete a course, and then if you want to obtain permanent residence, especially the students coming over to Australia from Asia, from countries like China, Sri Lanka, they would love to obtain the permanent residence visa. And then if they wish to obtain their PR in Australia, and if you studied in Melbourne, certainly you need to meet a higher threshold, higher point test. An accounting graduate in Australia, if you are graduated in Melbourne, to be able to apply for independent skill migration, you need to have 80 to 85 points. Then you need to be over 25 years of age, higher level of English thresholds, 8 for each component in IELTS test, and then pass a translate exam, work experience, professional year, all that combined together can bring those higher level of points. Still possible to apply for migration. But if you've done nursing or teaching, suddenly you got an opportunity to just meet the pass mark of 65 and secure your migration.
Susantha, I understand that the Australian government has introduced a new category of visa called the entrepreneur visa. What can you tell me about that?
Yes, it's an initiative by the South Australian government in Adelaide. The South Australian government decided to provide nominations under subclass 408 visa for entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs need to have an innovative business idea and a minimum capital of 200,000 Australian dollars. And they don't need to necessarily have a business background, but some skills that relate to their business plan and the business activity, a capital under 45 years of age, good English skills, and then if you convince the South Australian government, then certainly there's a possibility that the government will sponsor you for a 3-year visa. Applicant can move into South Australia to Adelaide with their families. And ultimately, they have the permanent residence pathways to establish that business and apply under normal business migration pathway for permanent residence. If you're a business person, if you're a business owner in your home country, you're a Sri Lankan and own a business here, and if you hold 30% share in a company that has a minimum turnover of 500,000 Australian dollars and assets of minimum 800,000 Australian dollars and reasonable level of English and a good business plan, business intention, you got the opportunity to apply for business migration.
I've been talking with Susantha Katagampala, accredited lawyer and immigration law specialist and the principal lawyer at Fairfield Lawyers in Australia. And of course, he's also the director of Australia Gateway here in Colombo. Susantha Katagampala, thank you for watching.